Mayoral Memo with Mathew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
From Dubbo Regional Council, Mayor Mathew Dickerson, how are you today?
Very good, thank you. First time we've chatted for the year, so I'm not sure how long we can keep saying Happy New Year for, but at least until the 9th of January, surely.
I was watching the ABC breakfast program this morning, and they announced that it was by the middle of January. So we're still within that range, so Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you. So we've got another week to go almost. That sounds fantastic.
It does, so we can greet whomever with a Happy New Year. Happy New Year, listener. A lot of people back from holidays, so it's first time to chat with them.
We do have a long time off in Australia, don't we? We seem to take a couple of weeks off, and then what happens is we come back today and everyone's absolutely flat out because they've got 2 weeks to catch up on.
One announcement that brought a lot of interest last week was $500 million or $500 million for roads.
And certainly the state government was criticised somewhat for the $50 million that was given to us at the end of last year. I certainly wasn't critical because every dollar we could get to spend on the roads, I was happy to get some money of that. And that money was allocated on a kilometre length basis in your LGA. So Dubbo Regional Council got $955,000 of that $50 million. And so that was okay. We need a lot more than that. But we were told at the time there was no more money to be had for roads. Obviously, they've looked a bit deeper, found a hidden bank account. I'm not sure where they found it from or what budget they've taken it from. But again, I'm not going to complain. $500 million for roads, it definitely needs that. $280 million of that is allocated to regional roads. And based on the same percentage, if it ends up being that should give Dubbo Regional Council about $5 million. And again, that's fantastic. It's got to be spent by the end of this year, so we'll have to get our road crews cracking on that. We haven't been allocated that amount of money yet, but obviously we'll have the application in and try and get some of that money there. But it is interesting because even before the flood events that were the focus for most of the end of last year, we estimated that we had about a $40 million backlog on our roads. Obviously, that number's increased with all the damage that was done to the roads, but still, we need to get the money from somewhere. We need to get as much money as we can to repair those roads. So $5 million certainly will go some way towards repairing those roads. And so we'll keep our hand out. We'll keep working as efficiently as we can and keep coming up with different ways to try and get our roads repaired.
And still on roads, it's good to see that the road between Dubbo and Narromine is getting a bit of work done on it at the moment.
Well, there's some work being done out there, but there's also some overtaking lanes. I did see an announcement before Christmas for additional overtaking lanes being built out there, and that's obviously needed along there. Some of the roads we have out around our region, as you know, are very straight, very flat, and so overtaking is relatively easy. Between Dubbo and Narromine, it's not the case. There's some curves, there's some hills. It's a bit harder to overtake out there. So having overtaking lanes, I think, is very important. Same as between Dubbo and Wellington. Those overtaking lanes between Dubbo and Wellington are well utilised, and obviously we'd like to see more of those. So, yeah, it is good to see money being spent on those roads, on those highways, which, as you would know and as your listeners would know, the councils in those areas are not responsible for those highways. The state government is responsible for those highways.
Let's hope they can find more money to do even more upgrades of that road, and also the one from Dubbo through Wellington and down to Orange, because it is very much needed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you do see a lot of that damage that's been repaired, but there's still those roads, you still get hit with an occasional pothole or some damage to the road here and there, and still some spots where you drop down to 60 kilometres an hour, even 40 kilometres an hour in some of those spots.
Yep, I'd just like some of it to be like the superhighways around Sydney and the North Coast. But anyway.
That'd be nice.
It would be. Now, Dubbo Regional Council is reminding residents to have their say on the final draft Macquarie River Corridor North and South Precinct Master Plan.
Definitely right. That was a mouthful and a half, wasn't it? Yeah, definitely right. The submissions for this close on the 17th of February. Now, this is something that created a lot of discussion last year. These precincts, particularly around Regan Park area, a lot of discussion around that and how that was going to be utilised. And we've gone through a process. Councillors stuck to their process in that, and we're at the point now where it's probably easier for people to see what might be there. It's all well and good to have a blank sheet of paper and say to people, what would you like to see here? How would you like to see this structured? But it's hard sometimes to visualise that. As we've gone through that process, as we've further developed that whole precinct plan, we've now got this final draft plan, so people can see it. People can see pictures. They don't have to imagine it now. They can see it there in black and white and colour on a bit of paper or on a computer screen in front of them. And so then they've got the chance to say, yep, I love this part here. Gee, what about over here if we change that? What about if we put something different here? So you've got all that ability to put all that in. And again, submissions close 17th of February. There'll be then a further process that we'll go through before council will finally adopt that plan. And then once we adopt that plan, we'll take it that that's the plan that the community in general is happy with, and then we can start working away towards realising that plan, which is not a short-term process. It can take a decade or more to realise a master plan, but I'd certainly encourage people to get in and have their say now. Now is the time to do it.
It appears Dubbo has really got a strong growth area.
Certainly in high-rise buildings, I'm actually quite fascinated by this, Rod. We've got a few DAs that are going through either to council at the moment, or some will go to the Western Region Planning Panel, just depending on the value of those developments. But number 1, Church Street, people are familiar with the work that's being done down there. There's a DA in to change that ever so slightly, adding 2 additional floors. So in total, if this goes through, that'll be 12 residential levels, 2 floors of parking, and then a ground floor commercial activities there. So in total, that'll be 15 floors on that building. So that's certainly high rise in Dubbo terms. We've also got in Brisbane Street a government office block that'll have 7 floors, 2 basement levels for parking and 5 floors there. And that's the one that already is a government office block now next to Robertson's Tyre Service. So that obviously will be demolished and then built to a much higher level there. So that's quite high rise for Dubbo. And then we've got another one in Macquarie Street, which is basically going to be, if this DA goes through, it'll be a 162 room hotel and 41 apartments on top, and then 8 tenancies on the ground floor in commercial premises. So a few different ones there. The other one that I find quite fascinating is a DA in for an extension to a chicken industry or it's a intensive livestock agriculture, basically a chicken farm extension. Now, the company that's doing that, Aviagen, is basically producing at the moment 140,000 birds a year. They supply about 20% of the national broiler industry with breeder stock. So that's all happening around the Wellington area. So that extension goes through, there'll be more chickens that are produced there around that area. The last one, just briefly, is 48 units around Monash Street. Now, again, we keep talking about the need in lots of regional areas, not just Dubbo, but lots of regional areas for more housing, more affordable housing, and units are going to be part of that solution. So this DA for 48 units in Monash Street will potentially be part of that solution. Now, let me just say that all of those are DAs. None of those are approved yet. They're all going through various processes. They're all public because once you lodge a DA, it's able to be viewed on a portal. But again, no final resolution from council or any planning panels has been made on any of those ones yet.
Okay, so they're just development applications. 15 floors, that'll make, you're right, it's a high rise for Dubbo.
Exactly right. And it's interesting, we don't have any hard limit on how high buildings can be in Dubbo. The limit is really related to the airport and the flight path that planes come in on. So when people say to me, is there some limit of 2 or 3 stories in the CBD of Dubbo, for example? There's not. Obviously, you're going to get a limit in terms of when is it financially viable, and you'd have to be very high before you got in the road of the flight path in the CBD of Dubbo. So 15 floors, sure, that's today. Who knows what will come next?
Sometimes in Dubbo, if you're looking for accommodation, it can be very difficult. This is for tourists and so forth. So a motel with 162 rooms, that's another great move forward for Dubbo.
That's right, and we do see high occupancy rates. If you're a motelier in Dubbo, you're always talking about those occupancy rates, and high occupancy rates are experienced by moteliers in Dubbo, which is fantastic, but it also probably demonstrates that we need more motels. And there'll be different style of motels, and that's fantastic as well. People come to Dubbo from all sorts of areas, and they want to have different styles and different levels of accommodation.
Now, Australia Day is not far away. Nominations have closed for Dubbo area of Dubbo Regional Council, but Wellington applications are still being taken for the awards.
Exactly right. So we do have a range of awards there, as everyone does, that has their Australia Day ceremonies. And essentially, we've got those applications, as you said, they've closed for Dubbo already for Citizen of the Year and Young Citizen of the Year and Sportsperson, etc. But for Wellington, they're still open. They closed today. So I'd encourage people to get those nominations in. One of the things that's always interesting, I find, is you talk to people after an award ceremony and they'll say, gee, I had this person in mind, or this young person did something great, or this person's really contributed to the community. I should have put an application in for them. Well, it's all too late then. Once the award's handed out, it's too late. And I actually get a bit of a buzz. I get the pleasure of sitting on those award committees making the decisions about who actually wins these awards. And the quality of people that we see in those applications is very high. So sometimes people say, the person I know wouldn't be good enough. They wouldn't cut the mustard as such. But you want to put those applications in. You never know how the decision goes. You never know what the standard is going to be like any given year. And sometimes people think that a friend of theirs, they're doing this sort of stuff. They're doing this all the time, but they're not really a great contributor. But if you actually sit back and look at it and actually consider what they do, sometimes those people who you think just do things on a daily basis, they are a great contributor to our community. So we really want to see those applications in. And again, those awards are very exciting when you see those people, the excitement for people that win those awards on the day. It's a really great day to be a part of, a real buzz.
We're talking with Mathew Dickerson, Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council. Just quickly, if you have any knowledge on this one, 3 planes from Dubbo have been assisting firefighting crews out around Gilgandra.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the RJ-85. I did actually notice that in the media just the other day. And you've got the RJ-85, the Canadian plane that sits there and basically is ready for water bombing. So I'm not sure if that's one of the ones that's been involved with that. But Captain Rick, we've had a couple of tours of the plane there with Captain Rick, and it's actually quite a fascinating process that they go through. They have a bird dog that sits up high and watches over a fire, and then the RJ-85 comes and actually does water bombing. And that's a plane that's been modified. And when you get in that plane, where all the seats would be, there's nothing. They've removed those completely, and the water actually just hangs off on 2 pods on the side. And when I say water, sorry, that's not correct. It's not water. It's a fire retardant that's actually better than water at putting out fires. So I'm not sure if the RJ-85 has been one of those planes involved in helping that, but I assume it has been. And that sits there on the tarmac in Dubbo throughout the entire summer. As I said, I've talked to Captain Rick already this summer. He flew it over from Canada. They have to do it a few hops because the fuel load isn't good enough to be able to get it here in one go. But they bring it over from Canada in a few hops. They sit there, they have it at the ready to get to all sorts of parts of New South Wales. I did say to him that I hope he has nothing to do this summer, but I suspect with the amount of water and rain we've had around and the amount of growth we've got, he'll be very busy this summer.
Mathew Dickerson, have a good day.
Thank you.
Mayoral Memo with Mathew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.